The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is your embassy in the heart of Israel, founded in 1980. From our headquarters in Jerusalem through our branches in over 80 nations and yours in Canada, we seek to challenge the church to take up its scriptural responsibility, to remind Israel of the promises made to her in the Bible, and to be a source of practical assistance to all the people in the land of Israel. On today's program, a panel discussion on boycott and divestment drives against Israel. An interview with an Ethiopian doctor being trained with Save a Child's Heart, and a teaching about the new anti-Semitism. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verses 6 to 8. For you are a holy people to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples on the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any other people, for you were the least of all peoples. But because the Lord loves you, and because he would keep the oath which he swore to your fathers, the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Welcome to our panel discussion today. Our question and our concentration, Israel on trial. Is Israel the aggressor and human rights violator often depicted in the media and in many circles? As we see with the boycott and divestment drive, with the Israel Apartheid Week, one looks at numbers racked up in wars. Does this depict that Israel is a human rights violator? Here to discuss this with me, George Woodward, Donna Hallbrook, and Mark Vandermaas. Thank you for joining me.
Great to be with you.
You, Mark.
Me?
First statement.
I would say, first of all, it's predicated on a lie that is commonly being propagated, that Israel is an aggressor. It is somehow in the wrong. In fact, Israel is the victim. The Jews are the victim. They're the victims of terror. And now we have people trying to steal the land that the world promised to them in the 1922 Mandate for Palestine. And so, no, I don't think they're aggressors at all. The evidence also to the, they like to talk about the number of Arabs that were killed in, for example, the Gaza war. Half of them, contrary to the propaganda that you read in the mainstream media, were actually Hamas fighters, and you didn't hear about that until the conflict was over, so there was deliberate suppression of the news. And the evidence shows if Israel was truly trying to kill Arab Palestinians, there would have been 20,000 dead Arabs in Gaza, not 1,000.
You made a very interesting reference that we don't often hear, that the Jews are the victims. I'll tell you, Jews by culture do not like to see themselves as victims.
Oh, no, they don't.
And even when it comes to the dead, with what Israel suffers and the innocent people that get murdered, this is not, you're not going to see somebody holding up in Israel the dead and shaking them in the streets. And I'm not trying to make light of this. It's terrible when we see the loss of life. But some of these things are played in the media. They're played in order to turn people's views against Israel. Because under Israel culture, the dead are buried very quickly. It's an honor. It's an honor to life and unto death. And Israel and Jews just are not seen as victims, nor do they embrace that term. They're everybody knows they're big into discoveries, into inventions and so forth, and they've come out of a Holocaust and rebuilt in a spectacular fashion. They're not seen as victims, nor do they like to be seen as victims, but let's call a spade a spade.
Well,
they're being victimized.
They're not even.
So what you said there was very
They're not
good.
Just victims of violence. They're also victims of propaganda.
Yes.
Because I mean, there's actually a term for some of the anti-Jew, anti-Israel propaganda that's being fabricated, and it's called Pallywood.
Yes.
Or the videos,
yes.
And photography,
yes.
F-A-U-X, photography, where people are fabricating pictures, fabricating narratives, fabricating videos, and so they're a victim in both respects, as far as I'm concerned.
It's actually been proven with some of the photography that this one guy was known helmet head. He just kept coming back in the media. He kept rising from the dead and going again and again and again, and picture after picture kept depicting him. A lot of these things are set up.
Yes, they are.
And it's just not, it's not the way it is. George?
I have the privilege of interacting with a number of people in southern Israel, and that are the receivers of these missiles that are shot over and over and over and over again. And to try and assume that Israel is the aggressor in this is, I would say, you have not been there, my friends, because it's just not so. And if we could, I know this has been said many times, but if we thought that the United States was going to continue to throw bombs and things into Canada, we would put up with half of one, not even one. You know, so it's just again more propaganda to try and paint Israel as this despicable, should be thrown off, should be demolished kind of country. But as you were saying, the pictures that are all fabricated and doctored and changed and all those kinds of things, unfortunately, are consumed by the headline readers and the CNN watchers of the reports that come. And it's a very, very unfortunate thing because it paints Israel in a very different picture than what the reality is.
Donna?
Well, it's true. I mean, I was just, when you're saying about the Bollywood, there was a time when, you know, they'd have a body on a stretcher and you'd see this aerial view and the body would fall off and then it would run after the stretcher and get back on. And they were using ambulances, life-saving vehicles for bombs and for all of this nonsense. Well, it's more than nonsense. It was terrorism. So Israel holds herself up to one of the highest standards. I've come to know the Jewish people over a period of 20 years. That's not long enough.
And to emphasize treating injured terrorists.
Well, it's
well,
really,
they do in the hospitals. They you know, who's wounded the most gets treated first, and you know that's a problem for Israelis because you've got a victim, a Jewish victim, and the terrorist gets treated. So I think there are some issues there as well. But Israel holds herself up to a high standard because she's trained within Judaism. To save one life is as if to save the whole world. And I have found this over a period of time of just watching them and seeing them and how people are aggressing against them, the terrorism, that they maintain a high standard of human rights. And they are not the ones they're the ones being attacked. Her wars are wars of defense against those who attack her.
A lot of people don't realize, too, that when these human shields happen where Hamas puts its rockets and places its rockets very strategically in crowded areas, that IDF goes to the Palestinian territories on loudspeakers and warns people, get out, but they don't let them leave because they want the death rate to go up for the world to see. This is something that's just so heinous for us to even comprehend.
Well, do you remember when Arafat, the compound in Ramallah, and he felt that Israel was going to strike? All the women and children of the Palestinian Arabs were called out to encircle the compound because they knew that Israel would not strike a building at the sacrifice of those women and children, but the Palestinian Arabs would.
Well, it's really interesting. There was a British commander, he's a colonel, and his name escapes me right now, and he made a statement. He was a commander in Afghanistan, actually, and his remarks, and I'm paraphrasing, that Israel is the most moral army in history, and it's really a shame to see them demonized so badly.
And when they're natural disasters, who's there on the ground to help out?
They're the first.
If we remember back to the Second World War and what we as North Americans did, we carpet bombed the cities. There was no consideration about we're going to send leaflets down and tell them all to move and everything.
In Arabic.
Yes, exactly. So please, if we're going to throw these stones, let's just look around a little bit, you know, because the way that the Israelis have handled this whole thing as far as what they had to do in Gaza, what they had to accomplish there, was done with the best possible understanding of saving as many lives as they could.
Frankly, it's rather insulting, people talking about racism. Why? So you expect the people in these Islamic states to behave like animals, to be stoning their women, throwing acid in their face for an education, abusing the Christians, killing them for being Christian, killing the apostates. I mean, the list goes on and on. When you look at the human rights violations on a list of 10 countries, 9 out of them are Islamic states and 1 is North Korea. This is a serious problem with violation of human rights, violation of women's rights, but somehow it's being tolerated. Why? there's no standard. I find that racist. No standard. In other words, it's okay for people to behave like animals and you just accept it, but you blame Israel. I mean, to me, this is something that is not being addressed.
Well, just following up on Donna's point there about the Jewish people, I am amazed the more I meet them and the more I interact with them at just how humane they are and how much they care about other people. I had the fortune of, we held a conference one year and our charity was the Alin Children's Hospital in Jerusalem, and they treat handicapped children, and they treat them whether they're Arab or Jewish, or they even bring in people children from Russia or from Africa that need treatment, and they work side. They don't treat them any differently, and the Jewish people are an amazing people, and I'm just in awe of them, and I think sometimes they go too far.
Yes, I'll tell you something. There are Muslims out there that I've spoken to personally that are disgusted by the treatment of Israel, that understands the human rights of Israel, that recognizes Israel's right to exist. We don't hear enough about that in the media, but they're there.
Good.
Yes, any final words before we...
I just think we have to, maybe from my own perspective, but we need to balance it a little bit. We can't try to suggest and project that Israel is this perfect country that does everything perfectly.
Nobody's perfect. No. Nobody's perfect.
They're not.
No.
But who is the aggressor and who is not? Who is the one that's being put upon and who is not? Who is the one that has a real passion and a heart for peace and who is not? It makes it very clear.
Well said.
Yes. That's well said.
Exactly.
And we're about to close now. I'd like to thank you so much for joining the panel today. We'll be back after this.
Luke chapter 11, verse 41. But rather give alms of such things as you have, and behold, all things are clean unto you.
We're at Wolfson Hospital, and with me I have Dr.
Yahoo.
Okay. And tell us about how you got involved with Save a Child's Heart, because you're not from Israel originally.
No.
So how did you come into this program as a doctor?
Okay, originally I'm from Ethiopia in the eastern part of Africa. I got involved with Save a Child's Heart some 4 years ago through one of my professors who also studied here. He apparently is one of the very few pediatric cardiologists we have in Ethiopia, and he trained here some 7 years ago, and he was in recruiting a team of physicians who will be based in Ethiopia and work as a unit, as a team in Ethiopia. And he told me about Save a Child's Heart.
And so when did you arrive here?
I arrived in Israel 2012.
And you've been here since?
I've been here since.
And what's the experience been like for you?
I can divide the experience I had here into two, my social life.
Yes.
Outside of the hospital, which is not a lot of time.
And the rest, you're here all the time.
Yeah.
And the hospital life
the rest is the hospital. The hospital life, everyone I work with, the team of Save a Child's Heart, they've been training and they've been working with other foreign experts, foreign medical professionals before. So they're very welcoming when I first came to teach, and also to get me used to the country and the culture. They were very helpful. And outside, I also have friends I met in and outside of the hospital. So my experience has been very positive. I really love the experience, and I really love the city. It's a beautiful city, Tel Aviv.
It is.
Yeah.
Have you been back to do surgery in Ethiopia for your people?
Yes. I've been back twice already, and I've been to Tanzania twice. No, I'm going the second time this coming March. I've been to Ethiopia specifically to get involved in open heart surgery that Save a Child's Heart was working in collaboration with. So Save a Child's Heart does also get involved with other organizations and help in a way,
right?
So that there will be campaigns happening. So I was part of a campaign jointly run by Indians and Americans, and I was representing Save a Child's Heart. So yes,
excellent.
I was in Ethiopia.
And your long term will be here in Tel Aviv or just outside in Holon. Will be at this hospital?
My long term will be just 1 year.
Okay.
After 1 year, I should be done here, and when I'm done, which is very exciting, I'll be back in Ethiopia. When we go back, it's just not like you might just see me now, but like I have another 3 doctors here who are working with me, and also will be working with me back in Ethiopia. So when we go back, we go together as a team to operate there. So.
Are you starting a new pediatric surgery
Yes.
then? So you're initiating this in Ethiopia?
Yeah, we're hoping to open the first local pediatric cardiac team.
That'd be exciting.
That would be very exciting and will be very difficult, but we're up for it.
The congenital heart issues, there are a lot of children in Ethiopia who require this type of surgery?
Just to take it back and tell you about the demography of the country, Ethiopia is around 90 million people, and around 42% of them is under 18. So that tells you that there are so many kids being born every day, and you know, the more the number you have of children, like you'll see more kids having this problem. So we have thousands of kids being born every year who needed this care. Some of them happen to be here by chance. Some of them go to another places, but comparing the demand and supply, the care they're getting is not enough. So we'll have a lot of work to do.
Well, this is critical to the families who have these children who need this operation, that they can be in their own country receiving help. So that's critical. And you'll be there in another year doing this.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons Save a Child has started bringing doctors from these developing countries is because when you bring a mother with their kids here for a couple of months, 2 or 3, in Africa, life usually revolves around the mother.
Right, and you're taking the mother away from the rest of her children.
Yeah, that would shake up the basis in the house.
Wow.
So we want to stop that, at least for the cases that can be done in Africa.
Right.
And the more complicated cases, you know, so the sophisticated ones, they might still come here, but we'll take down quite a number of, we can take care of quite a number of cases back in Ethiopia.
And that's very important. I'm glad that you're going to be heading that delegation of doctors in Ethiopia. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
No worries.
Up next, a Messianic minister and author of the book Grafted In discusses the new anti-Semitism.
In this segment, we're going to be addressing a very significant issue, which is the issue of the new anti-Semitism. Friends, throughout history, the Jewish people have suffered untold heartache, trouble, persecution because of anti-Semitism. Because of the diaspora, Jews were scattered all over the world, and they had no protection of their own. They were vulnerable. They were unfortunately like sitting ducks, just waiting for the moment that a crowd, a mob would rise up and burn their homes and rape their women and kill their men. Anti-Semitism is an ugly evil. It is actually spurned and fueled by Satan himself, because Satan desires to destroy the very apple of God's eye. You see, God chose the Jewish people to be a light to the Gentiles. And therefore, in wanting to destroy the Jewish people, obviously Satan has tried to even wipe out the Jewish Messiah, Yeshua. Friends, anti-Semitism, sad to say, is still rampant today. And in fact, in different parts of the world, it is on the increase. But today in our 21st century society and culture in North America particularly, the new anti-Semitism is actually anti-Zionism. There is a Jewish state today where Jewish people from all over the world can come and call their home. Those that would rise up to criticize, rise up to see the Jewish state delegitimized and the Jewish government demonized are the very people that are actually allowing a demonic spirit to influence them, and they're very active and passionate about wanting to destroy the Jewish state. It is the collective Jew, no longer the individual Jew, that is being targeted. Anti-Semitism is actually an affront to God, and the new anti-Semitism, which once again I repeat, is anti-Zionism or anti the Jewish state, is actually an affront to God's promise to Abraham. I read in Genesis chapter 12, when God called Abraham out of the Ur of the Chaldees, he said to him in verse 1, "Get out of your country, from your family, from your father's house, to a land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." As Abraham with his family continued on his journey to the land that God had promised him, after the slaughter of the kings, when he rescued his nephew Lot, the Bible says that he gave a tithe to Melchizedek, the high priest who came. And then from that point on, he was blessed by Melchizedek, and then he had a second encounter with the God of the universe. And in chapter 15, Abraham makes an altar, and he brings a sacrifice, and he comes into covenant with God himself. And I'm just going to read that portion to you. In chapter 15, verse 12, "Now when the sun was going down," it says, "a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and behold, a horror and a great darkness fell upon him." This was after he had cut these sacrifices in two. "And then he said to Abram," God speaking, "Know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict them for 400 years. Now at this point in time, God was revealing to Abraham that the day would come when his descendants would actually be for 400 years in the land of Egypt. And as we know the story, very simply, they were then forced into slavery after many years and after the death of Joseph at that time. Verse 14, "And also the nation whom they serve I will judge. Afterward they shall come out with great possessions. Now as for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace, and you shall be buried at a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it came to pass, when the sun went down, and it was dark, that behold, there appeared a smoking oven and a burning torch that passed between those pieces. On the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying to your descendants, I have given this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Wow, quite interesting, all the names of these nations that at that time were possessing this land, but had then been dispossessed because of the wickedness of their cultures and of their societies. God made it very clear to Abraham that the land belonged to his descendants. So today, fast tracking, today in the 21st century, the Jewish state of Israel is a modern day miracle. No one can contest that fact. The new anti-Semitism is anti-Zionism or anti-Israel. I would encourage you to do your best to be a voice to support a strong advocacy for the state of Israel. And when you hear individuals that speak against the Jewish state of Israel, or those that would seek to find justification to see her destroyed, that you would not sit on the sidelines and say nothing, or find yourself buying into a political correctness, but that you would speak the truth and declare that God's promise to Abraham and to his descendants was the land, and the land belongs to the Jewish people. In fact, I would say to you, as I bring this to a close, the miracle of the Jewish state of Israel actually is a confirmation that God always keeps his promise. So therefore, in closing, if he kept his promise with the Jewish people, will he not also keep his promise to you as Gentile believers? Therefore, do not take for granted the Jewish state of Israel. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and you will be blessed, because the Bible says, even as we read, when God spoke to Abram, those that bless you will be blessed, and those that curse you will be cursed. May God bless you.
We conclude our program today with some sights and sounds within Israel. In consideration of Canada's 150th birthday, please consider 150 ways to bless Israel through your Christian embassy, the ICEJ Canada. Consider becoming a $150 monthly donor. Plant 150 trees, 150 prayers for Israel. The opportunities are endless. Please contact us. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to visit our website at www.icejcanada.tv or call us at 1-866-324-9133. Through your contribution to ICEJ Canada, you can participate by giving to Haifa Home for Holocaust Survivors, Women at Risk, Red Carpet Project, Operation Life Shield, Bomb-Proof Shelters, Shoulder to Shoulder, Alias Support, Bet Singer Children's Home, Israel in Crisis, ICEJ Communication Media Fund, Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, Magen David Adom Emergency Services, Canada Israel Young Adult Scholarship, Equip and Teach, Bet Rachel Strauss Inclusive Community, Gift, Estate, and Securities Funds.